Hey, Honorable, how's it going? We are just getting ready for um, doing some more. I think people have been liking this, so I'm going to keep working through the process of showing you guys, how you get a job. How do you answer and how do you get better at these things that people are looking for in the job market. So I'll hop on here. And we'll just go over this for a while, pretty much until my wife gets here, which is in a couple hours when she gets off work. Um, I'll just tell her all stop. You get here. Okay, good. I'm just telling her. All right, so we started this the other day, and we went and found a bunch of jobs online, right? People were posting jobs that they were interested in. These notes are up in our Discord, by the way, and I've just been keeping track of these are the actual things people want from us, and then what we would do or what concepts or things that I think that you should study to go get ready for those, right? So now we're down in this one, which is DevOps. So somebody said, hey, I want to be a little better. I want to understand this DevOps concept a little more and see maybe how some of that works. So the first one for this one, let's go ahead and just bring these back over here and say improve and maintain orchestration by using Kubernetes on-premise and in the cloud. All right, so they want you to know Kubernetes. How are you going to figure out a little bit more about Kubernetes? I think the number one thing that you should do is get hands-on in Killer Code. I think that's like your number one thing. I really do. But maybe another one that would be good is to start reading some of the documentation. So Kubernetes IO has a whole bunch of documentation on here, and it's all right here, and it tells you kind of what's going on inside of Kubernetes. You may want to maybe study a little bit of very specific things. You might want to go look into, like, maybe you're going to be working for a Red Hat shop, so OpenShift, right? OpenShift is a big Red Hat tool, so maybe you want to go hit up some of their information. Maybe you want let's see if we can find their documentation. Look, IBM even has it on there because IBM bought Red Hat, if you don't know that. You can come in here and say, what do I know about this? What do I want to be able to talk about with this, right? So maybe go spend a little bit of time over here on IBM OpenShift, right, for very specific tooling. We have get more information. Maybe this is one of the first things you want to do is get more information about the thing. So, you go get some hands-on. You go read. You go look at some sales stuff, right? These are all things that I think will help you to maybe pick up some of these skills around maintaining and orchestrating using Kubernetes in the cloud. So, you come over here, and what do you do specifically? Well, they want you to understand maintain orchestration by using Kubernetes on-premise and in the cloud. So they want you to know a lot of the tasks that are found here, which is in the CKA. So you want to study. Maybe you're going to study a little bit, study for your CKA or your CKAD, right? And if you want to study for those, there's a lot of tools out there. There's paid for tools, which is like, Code Cloud. I think it's Code Cloud like that. And there's Udemy. And then you want Mumshad. His course is one of the best. Also, the guy who runs Killer Coda is a guy named Kim Woosterkamp, and he's pretty good. Hey, InfoSuck, how's it going? Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. We are just looking over, job postings, and I'm just talking through things that I think that you could do or study to get into those different types of roles. There's free stuff. We come back here and we say free stuff. And that can be, your Killer Coda is free. We have some stuff up in our Discord around, Prolog, Discord, free resources. You know, we got a bunch of stuff that's free up in our Discord. I tell you guys all the time, you could join our Discord and then you could bounce. You could join our Discord, grab all the stuff like a cartoon villain and then leave, and it wouldn't hurt my feelings. I am okay with you guys just coming through and bouncing. I'm fine with that. I'd prefer if you stayed and hung out. The text one said Kim Wooster comp. Did I do something like that? Probably something weird like that happened. Okay, so anyways, in our Discord, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in presentations, whole bunch of stuff that we've put up, like different. I don't even know some of the stuff that's up here. When we were talking about learning Ansible, and where's one here? Hold on. So like a Kubernetes 3-tier application that teaches you how to go build a 3-tier application inside of Kubernetes. And if you're like, well, but I learn more hands-on, well, we've got that hands-on, right? You can come down here to our Prolog type labs. You know, you can find that on here. You can go into the Kubernetes, and then you can go to the 3-tier application. And while you're watching that presentation, or you know, watching the video or whatever, you can come in here and actually get started on this deployment. This is what the deployment's doing. Part of a larger presentation that was given to Prolog and Redline Performance Solutions. It is standalone, but more context can be found in the Discord. So this lab you can do by yourself, but you also will learn more if you go read or whatever. Also, Saito and Quartz, how's it going? Down here it says your organization has tasked you to build a modern 3-tier application using Kubernetes. You're going to use Nginx, Flask, and MySQL. And that's what I did to build a basic proof of concept. And then if you go through this lab, that's what you'd be doing. You'd be coming down here, you'd set up your namespaces, your storage, and your secrets. Now this lab is not like a beginner's lab. I would start much more beginner than this, but I'm just showing you that like you can get all the namespaces, you can create some namespaces, you can see those new namespaces that you just built, and you're building them to this idea that's drawn out in the lab or in the presentation. And then you can create a secret for MySQL so that you have a password, you know, very secure. That's our password. And then you get the secrets and see that there's a secret there. Oops. All right. And then you can go and you can look at the storage files, and these will build the persistent volume and the persistent volume claim for when we do our actual MySQL part of this as the backend, right? So then we can look in here and see that those were built. We can verify that our ingress was set up. Our ingress was set up before we started the lab. We can look at a Docker PS and see that this registry is open for us, so that's good. And then we can look in Etsy hosts and see that we have this externally mapped name for our system. So we've got all the pieces that we kind of need, and then we can go on to the later part of our labs, right? So I show you all that to say, over here, they want you to improve and maintain container orchestration using Kubernetes. So what they really want you to do, if you think about like from a job perspective, they want you to be able to do the basic administrative tasks of Kubernetes. And where can you find those? Well, obviously you can do the labs here. But if you want to know what the tasks are for Kubernetes, you come over here and you say CKA study guide maybe. And here's the CKA study guide. There's a whole bunch of them that they want you to pay for. But Linux Foundation, right? And here's our certified Kubernetes administrator. And what I would do is I would come right down to here. Don't want any of this stuff, get out of the way. And you say, okay, do I know all these storage pieces? And I would grab these all out. I would go throw them in a notepad somewhere, right? Taking notes is a big part of being an engineer. And I would come down here and I would do this for all of them. I would grab all of this together right here. Actually, I have a page of this, right? And it's all this together. And then I would say, do I understand storage classes and persistent volumes? Do I know how to create them? Do I understand how to look at them in the system? Those are the two major things you do in the systems world. You create things and you check things. So do I know how to do that? Do I know how to go look at where the problems are if there's something wrong with one of those two things? What if I try to create those and I get a weird message like the API isn't working? Do I know what it means that an API server is down? Like what do all those things mean? And that's what kind of all of these different pieces talk about. So you would go and you would make sure that you feel good about all these pieces, and then you would feel comfortable answering questions that somebody might have inside of this. right? If you were going to go for this DevOps role, these are the things that I would go spend time in, right? And then this one says, this next one here will be 2, and it's provide support for monitoring and logging systems. So my first thing would be, do you know where logging occurs in systems, right? And in Linux systems, it tends to be in var log, right? And then different pathing underneath that, but you probably want to know that. Do you know how to maybe parse out some logs? Do you know how to like tail a log? Maybe tail dash, 30 on var log syslog or something like that? Do you know what that kind of stuff means, right? So if I come here, I clear this up, and I tail dash 30 on var log syslog, what's that going to show me? That's going to show me the last 30 entries of the file, right? The last 30 lines of that file. And good format of a file always has a timestamp at the beginning. That timestamp has to coordinate with some type of ISO standard. Typically, like if somebody were to ask me about logging, I would say I prefer to have all my logging set to UTC or standardized to UTC. So do you know where logging occurs in the system? Do you understand logging format, right? And there's actually actual standards to logging format, right? Of let's go to Stig logging format. There's actually a required format for Stigs. So this is Stig Manager from Read the Docs. And when we log things out, this is a specific tool called Stig Manager, I think. But you have to actually make sure that you're doing this. Let's see if we can find Central Log Server Requirements Guide for Stig. This might be one here that we can just go down and look at. Hold on. I like when they read out exactly what. So they don't have here. This is good information. All this would be useful information, but this is not showing us what the logs must be. I know where they are if we wanted to go look at them. I'll show them to you. Hold on. Let me get my Stig viewer open. So Stig viewer is back here. Hold on. This can take me a minute to find because I don't keep it in a normal path. Where's my Stig viewer back here? Hold on. Stig viewer. Yeah, here. All right. So I open up my Stig viewer, right? And Stig, this is a free tool, right? And free tool by the government. You're supposed to be using it for appropriate stuff. But I come over here, right? And I want to look at some set of Stigs. And I'm going to look at one specifically for layer 2 switches because I remember that this one had some of the most interesting ones to me. And then I'm going to look in a filter over here for a log, right? And now over here on the right, we're going to get whatever this Stig is, whatever the Stig standard is, which is the Secure Technical Implementation Guideline from the government. And it says, okay, this isn't really what I want here. This just talks about spanning tree protocol. If you're not familiar, spanning tree protocol is the way by which we allow there to not be routing loops in highly redundant switching layer 2 topologies, right? Anyways, we come down here and it says BPDU and then it says spanning tree. So none of these are giving me the log stuff that I want. Nope. None of these, they're just the word log. Let me see if I can find, let me open up one of my other Stigs. I'm going to import a different Stig real quick. Hold on. Which comes from, which Stig was this? It was called, this one's old. I got this one a long time ago. Hold on. Stig 4. This one would have been not my layer 2 switch one, but this was specifically for a generic networking type device. Hold on one second here. Might be this one. Let's look at this one. I think I used this one for another tool that I was messing with, but I don't see the log requirements in here. It kind of bugs me. Because there is a required standard for log type and what a log looks like, but I don't see it right there. Anyways, do you understand logging formats? Must always have a timestamp. You must have a timestamp. They should, log should then have, like a host name should have host name or, yeah, and then service, right? So now I know the host name of the node it came from and the service that it was doing. And then it should have, well, it actually must have a description of the event. Now it's outside of this and it's probably not what somebody wants here, but I would tell you that this is a super important thing to understand. Logging must be immutable. What does that mean by logging must be immutable? Hey, how's it going? Xshunyum, NanoJ, Moop. What's going on, guys? We're just hanging out. It's Friday afternoon. We kind of chill. I'm chilling until the wife gets here with Fazoli's in a little bit. So I got an hour or so till she gets off work, and then probably like about another 30-40 minutes before she gets here. But logging must be immutable. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by logging must be immutable in your environment? This is an important thing to understand. I can do things to logs as they come in, and I can transform and get information out and send that to different event viewers and different event buses and do all kinds of stuff. But the log itself must be immutable. Does anybody know what that means or why I would say that? It's this idea that the log can't be changed. Yeah, the log, the event that happened must be remembered how it happened forever, right? Now you can, as it gets created, you can say, well, and what that means is that a system is down. Sure. But that thing, when we interpret it and say, well, it means that the system's down, that doesn't replace the original event. Does that kind of make sense? It's unchanging, yeah. That's exactly right over on YouTube and on Twitch. Both of you guys, yeah. Can't be changed, unchanging. So logging must be immutable. Yeah, Xshunyum, I appreciate you coming by. You're welcome to hang out another time or down in Discord, right? We've got Discord. You guys are always welcome to kind of chill down there if you want. But so logging must be immutable, right? So do you understand where logging occurs? Typically down in var log. So if I clear this up, cd to var log, here is most of my logging in the system. And I can watch the system log if I want. I can say tail-f, like if I've never been on a system before, I can just say tail-f syslog. And I can just sit around. I just hit enter a few times, and I can say just see what are my normal messages on these boxes. That's pretty normal for me to see that there was some stuff happening with control plane, and over time I'm going to start to understand my systems a little better, right? And then this is another one about providing support of monitoring for systems. Do you know how to parse a log? What do I mean by parse a log? Do you know how to find errors in this? So if I just were like, well, I want to find an error in this log. So I'm already down there, but I like to do full pathing. So I might grep for error against var log syslog, right? And now here's all the errors in whatever time we had for the system. So I don't know actually when the time of this started. So I might just say head-1 of var log syslog, right? So I know where it started now. Then maybe I grep error syslog and I just want to count them up. And now I could tell you right now, if I clear this and then I go like this, I could tell you that from the log start of September 27th, 21. So that's at so it's funny, it's interesting. It's not funny and interesting. It's 3 o'clock for me here, but this system is 9:26. So it's 9 something at night, right? So that's when the logging started, and since then there's been 93 instances of the word error. Now, can I go parse those down? Sure, but all I wanted to do was look at maybe how many of them had happened, and then now I know that's only for the last, that's only in the last 32 minutes, approximately, about 32 minutes, right? So, yeah, trafficking. Crafty hackers can remove log entries. However, movement of packets can be traced in and out of the network. Thanks, Wireshark. Yeah. So, what Traffic King has mentioned is, people can. So logging must be immutable. People. Let's call them unknown, or unwelcome. Let's just say logs should be sent off the system immediately, so as to not be deletable. So we've talked about this before, but I'm going to pull it up again. If a lot of you guys tell me you want to get into hacking, right? You're like, I want to be a Linux guy, but it's because I want to go be elite hack source somewhere and I don't know, have some long, title behind your name or something. But just suffice it to say that attack.miter.org is one of the best places to start. And in attack.miter.org, it shows the way that we go about attacking systems, right? This is the MITRE attack kill chain right here. And one of the things that we find in defense and evasion, we go down a little bit, and we've looked this up before, but there's the idea that we delete logs, right? We can find it in here. I have it in one of our other presentations, but over here, these are the things that we're maybe doing to not get captured, and then we do an indicator removal, which is maybe where we delete things that have been happened or whatever on the system. But to which I say that's cool, but we can mitigate that by sending logs off of our system in real time. So as soon as you attempted to even connect to my server before SSH even finished completing and giving you a connection, I already have logs of your IP address and all these other things, and they're being sent off in real time. So even if you do manage to get into that server, take it down, delete all the logs, I still at least know the last thing that happened to that server before it died. And that's kind of important. Would a PID be included in a log file? It could be, Uzochi. It's possible. Like if I come back here and I look at the log files again, just grep error out of there. Sometimes PIDs will be communicated. I don't think they're always required. And I couldn't find the exact standards. So I'm saying these are just what I remember of the standards. But there are standards out there for especially government standards of what a system must be able to produce. And if it can't produce those things, then you can't get to a certain compliance requirement of your STIGs, right? And STIGs are your Secure Technical Implementation Guidelines. All right. So, we're just going down here and looking through this. And then this next one is 3. And we'll say participate in the development of K8s as a service solution in different regions for the internal development teams. And I would say this right here is very similar to 1, right? Participate in the development of K8s as a service solution in different regions for internal development teams. So you know who you're supporting, internal teams. Internal teams tend to be more technical in my mind as far as like how you'll talk to them than external teams, because you're working for the same place. When you work for different places, sometimes you have to think about what you're sending and make sure you're not giving out information that you shouldn't and that kind of stuff. So this is kind of, I would say, very similar to 1, and I wouldn't spend a whole lot of additional time on that if you were already spending your time getting good at Kubernetes and understanding how Kubernetes works. I would say maybe very similar to 1, but focus on CKAD topics. So that stuff I was talking about earlier with Certified Kubernetes Administrator, this is Certified Kubernetes Application Developer type stuff. All right. This next one says participate in duties related to platform activities. So what do we do with platform? Keep servers running, right? And that will be monitor for, disk full, make sure your disks aren't full, monitor for historical usage. You know, how much usage of your memory and CPU do you normally have? And in some cases, memory, network, and CPU, right? Like how much of that system is really there. And then another one, participating in platform activities, start, stop servers, right? Reboot as necessary. Necessary, I think, is right. Yeah, right. So useful one, zcat varlog sort m. Nice. I don't think I've ever used zcat for any of that stuff. It's interesting. Yeah. So we're over here, participate in duties related to platform activities, and we have, you know, just platform activities. Keep servers running. That's what we mostly do on the platform teams. We may install new software. This is kind of a catch-all. Patch systems, you know, security audit. Like, know who's logged in. This is some of the stuff that came from one of those other job things as well. So those are things that I would think that you would at least kind of need to know there, right? So maintain platform services and applications using Redis, Rabbit, MQ, and Vault. All right. So how are you going to learn about Redis, Rabbit, MQ? And Rabbit MQ is just one open source version of that. Kafka and Vault. All right. So this is HashiCorp. They have a pretty good website to learn Vault. I have some Vault stuff up on there as well. But HashiCorp Vault, they've got some pretty good information. If you go to their, you got to go to like Learn Vault. Let's see if it's just Learn, yeah, developer dot or whatever. So you go to Tutorials Vault, and you can actually go in and work through their tutorials. They have tutorials right here that you can go in, and here's 15 tutorials, and you can start actually playing them and working right through them. So let me just link this to you guys that want it. So Vault is a pretty well thought of system, with the exception of the fact that they recently went to a business source license. And in the business source license, because HashiCorp, if you guys don't know, just got bought by IBM as well. So Red Hat and Vault are both now owned by IBM, right? That's fun. So Vault used to be, I used to use it a lot in the lab, and I would show you guys how to go out, and it's awesome for identity management and logging up into the clouds and a bunch of stuff like that. But I kind of steered away from it because of that business source license. And if you're not familiar with it, we went over it a lot, but you can go look up HashiCorp and business source license. Kafka has also open source. I don't know who maintains this. Let's go look at Kafka. Open source. I want to say it was Google originally, but I could be wrong. Oh, it's Apache. Yeah, Apache. Right? And what is Kafka? At the end of the day, Kafka is just this. Yeah, it is Apache. You guys are right. Apache. So what is Kafka doing? It is an event bus, right? And if you want to set one up, I've got a lab. I'm gonna actually show you guys my lab. I don't always just pull up the labs because I'm not trying to necessarily get you guys to do the labs. I think people that want to will. But I've got a Kafka Kubernetes deployment lab. And we don't go super deep in there. But this is the start. When they talk about Kafka here, they want you to think about event-driven systems. And they're talking about event-driven systems. That's what they're focusing on. And the thing about event-driven systems is this. There's a good place to start with that if you don't know anything with it and you want to. It's over here in serverless land from AWS. So this is AWS specific. Kafka itself is not AWS specific, guys. Just so you know. Okay? Hold on, I'll answer that question here in a second because I think somebody had a question. But anyway, so there's those things, right? So Vault, Apache, serverless. Those are all things that I think that you should kind of understand. And what an event bus does is and this is how I think of it logically. Everybody's welcome to think about this different ways, but I think of an event bus as like a subway system. So let's do like a subway map, right? And let's just go. I don't know. I don't know any of these cities, but well, I mean, I know what the cities are, but I like don't know their subway maps. But you know, we come here. This is New York, some kind of map, right? And let's just say that an event bus, this event bus, or some people call them event bridge. Event bridge is the name of the AWS service. But what it is we could all be along these stops right here, right? Me and you and everybody else and Traffic King and everybody, all you guys could be along these stops. And it could be just a subway train just going around in a circle like this. And when I have a message for one of you, I just start chucking messages in at this little subway stop. And then you are just listening to that line. You're just sitting on that line. And you're capturing messages as they come out. Ewo on site, how's it going? Wait, hold on. I'm missing a question. I thought, I'm trying to rewatch your video on troubleshooting. Do you remember which one is? I don't, Traffic King. I've talked about that troubleshooting stuff on so many different videos that I don't even know where it's at. I don't have one just specifically on there. Ewo on site, what we're talking about here is Kafka, and I'm just talking about like event-driven systems and what event buses are. And I'm just talking about how you're listening to a topic, and if you're writing to the topic, you're a producer, and if you're listening to the topic, you're a consumer, typically. There's different terms for that and stuff. But Kafka is just basically an event bus or an event bridge. And I can just chuck, I could be sitting there whenever, and I can throw something in there when I want to, and then your service that's sitting over there just listening can pull it out later. So a lot of you that are thinking about that going, wait, hold on. So this event-driven thing you're talking about, this serverless land and some of this other stuff, I could have my like server, maybe my service that exists out there in the world over here, and it could be just listening to this Kafka bus, and you over here, when a user's trying to connect or something, could just let me know, and then I can provision that user using my service that only does that one thing. This is microservice architecture, right? And this one service does just this one thing. And then I could put another thing in there when I'm done, and then this thing can release the user and give them connection or something. Yes, that's exactly what an event bus is. And you're like, okay, so wait, now I don't have to worry about like a long, or like if I have a lot of job orders come in and then they can just sit in the bus and then they can be pulled out by the worker processes when they're, yes. That's exactly what this is. It's what we call decoupling. This term, Kafka it's a decoupler. It is, and guys, I'm not a programmer, but I know this stuff because I work with them all the time, right? Decoupling of services. This is why microservice architecture works well. You could simply be sitting over here building a tool that checks the state of the database right now based on like 3 values that you expect. And then you sit there and wait on the line, and everybody else knows that, because they've looked at your documentation for your system architecture, that if they put something into this Kafka bus, your system will pick it up and give them a response. That's what it is. It's literally just riding a subway train around, well, figuratively, but also literally. Because you could just sit around and ride a subway train all day, I'm pretty sure. Once you're in there, you just do whatever you want, I think. As long as you have time to waste. But that's my point. And then you say, well, there's all these other ones going all these different ways. Yeah, it's the producers and consumers for each of those are the little subway platforms, right? People can come on and off. Messages can come on and off. So I always use that as an example because that's how I think of that from an architecture standpoint. All right. RabbitMQ. This is the message queue, right? It is kind of like Kafka, but inside of a system. So, right? And it is one broker to queue them all. It is a queuing tool. Hey, Kolkus, how's it going? Is a reliable and maturing messaging and streaming broker, which is easy to deploy on cloud environments and all this kind of stuff. And then they've got your use cases down here. So decoupling services, RPC, right? Remote procedure call, streaming, upload new video, and then Internet of Things. You can have drones using local RabbitMQ. And honestly, I haven't dug into this much, but this reminds me a lot of what I know about, look, there's the word decoupling, This reminds me a whole lot of what I know about Kafka. So while I haven't played with this much, it's here. Dual license under Apache license and Mozilla. You have the freedom to use it however you want. And then what are users saying? You can go read about it and look at it. All right. So we're looking at job boards and job postings, and we're writing out what we know and what we need to know more about. I wouldn't feel like if I went in, I would feel pretty comfortable with the Redis part of it. I've set up some Redis in my time, and I would understand the Kafka and the Vault pretty good. I've both deployed and run these three things professionally, but I have not done RabbitMQ professionally, so I wouldn't feel as comfortable. And I'd say that. I'd say, look, I understand what we're trying to do here. I understand what you're asking for, and I think that RabbitMQ is just a piece that I don't have, but I think I'd come up to speed on it pretty quickly, especially if I saw a working system. And I think most of the time with systems stuff like this, people are looking for you to have a good amount of it. They don't expect you to have all of it. So how do we go learn more about Redis? Redis has its own little, let me pull this up here. I'm pretty sure Redis has its own little academy. Go right here. Oh, Mongo, that. Okay, Redis isn't on there. Let's see if Redis is still free. I know they used to have a free Redis University. I don't know if it still is. Yeah, okay, there's still a Redis University. So you can go use Redis. And Redis is oftentimes still used as a cache system. Type system. But it is, at the end of the day, Redis is really just a NoSQL database, or what we would call a it's really a key value pair database, right? That's mainly what's happening inside of Redis. There's other things it can do, but that's mostly what it does. And they show you how you can be a Redis operator. They show you how you can be a Redis developer if you want to actually use it as your backend for your different whatever you're working on. And then look, here's their course library, and you can go look at these. I don't think I'm definitely not signed in. I haven't been in here in a long time, but you can come in here and you can go get yourself what I would guess right off as tens, if not hundreds of hours of training on Redis. Let's go look at one. Let's just go look at full text search with Redis search and query, right? And this is a 2-hour thing. It's for all roles. It's intermediate, so that means you probably need to know a little bit. Perform basic full text searches, and they'll probably tell us how to do that with whatever library we have out of our Python or our Java or whatever we're doing, right? And then they give you, if you do this, there's a lesson, there's some different lessons, and then some assessments. They originally did this. They used to give certificates off of this. So you used to be able to come into like your My Learning, and I think I might be signed up with my Google. Let's see if my Google disconnects me. If it doesn't, that's fine. We're not going to worry about it. I thought I had my Google connected on there, but you want to go learn about that tool, you go spend some time in there. All right. And then that's really bugging me that how that doesn't fit there. I'll leave this big like that for that. All right. So now we get to here, and it's, well, what do we expect from you, right? They want you to have some experience with Kubernetes and Helm. So we already kind of talked about that. You got to go get your hands on in Killer Coda. And you can actually, inside of the Killer Coda sandbox back here, if we go back here and just go right to Killer Coda, and we go to their sandbox, you can just go into their Kubernetes sandbox, and you can go find any Helm chart out in the world and deploy it here if you want to try it. So you can figure out how Helm works. You also have to know Helm a little bit for your CKAD. Not much, not nearly as much as you'd think. Like, you're not writing Helm and stuff. You just kind of cut your teeth on it a little bit and look at it. But look at this one. This one's one that we focus on. They want you to know Alma Linux, CentOS, Red Hat-based distros, right? So that's important to know. So how am I going to go get more skills in that? Well, Killer Coda is unfortunately all Ubuntu, so there's not really anything there. But maybe you build out a home lab. Maybe you use the Prolog labs, right? We have labs available out there. What? We have our Prolog labs in in the Professional Linux Users group here, so you guys can hop on there if you wanted to. You can get in there through Discord. We're running a 16-week Linux system administration course right now for engineers or for potential engineers. They're mostly for people getting into systems administration, but you move over into engineering eventually, right? But yeah, you should build your home lab. How would you build your home lab out if you didn't have one? You'd do like Oracle VirtualBox. I think Oracle VirtualBox is just fine. And then you can build out anything you want in there. For me, I like to use, I use my home lab here with Zen. And then my Zen server just has all my virtual machines. There's all our Rocky boxes for the system. But this is what they want you to know. And you got to be able to talk a little bit about your experience in that space. Traffic said, question, understanding that sysadmin is a broad title, the tasks you are selecting, do they fall into genetic basics of majority of sysadmins or precursor for sysengineer? Yeah, so Traffic King, we just, what these are specifically is people posted up jobs that they were interested in, and I'm just going through them. So this is a job specification that somebody thought was interesting looking, and I'm just kind of walking through it now. So maybe this one is managed cloud, you know, being an Ubuntu user, this kind of stuff. And I'm just going through them and kind of putting in my thoughts of like what you should study or what you should know about that, right? That's kind of what this is. But you're right. I generically use systems administrator and systems engineer interchangeably a lot of the time because I just have been a systems engineer so long, and you never get away from systems administration as well. I'm going to open this up though, and I'm going to show you guys. This is my, hold on, that's it, this one. This is our Linux, whoops, this is our Linux systems, our Linux systems administration one, and this one has this drawing that I always show you guys, and some of you are probably tired of seeing it, but this is how I look at system administrators. System administrators are over here. In the general scheme of things, and this comes from Cisco, when we go to put something into an existing network or system, we do this process of PPDIOO, which is prepare, plan, design, implement, operate, and optimize, right? So let's say you're a new sysadmin. The way I think of a new sysadmin is you're coming into a system to run. They're giving you the keys to the system, and you are keeping the lights on. So you sit down in your chair on a Monday morning at 9 a.m. and you assume the mantle of keeping all of that system running, whatever that looks like. Sometimes that's a network operations center. Sometimes that's in a SOC, which is security operations center. Sometimes you're help desk. Sometimes you're a separate little engineering administration team over here, right? But your job is to keep the lights on and keep the systems running and healthy and maintained and all that stuff, right? Then I say, do you do this better, and do you optimize this as it runs, and how much do you do that? Because the more you do that as a sysadmin, the more they're going to move you over to project work, which is right here. This is systems engineering. Right? Is your systems engineers are doing the project work, which everybody thinks is fun, but it's still challenging. There's still a lot of work over here to do. Razushi said, potentially sidetracked, when people say they build out home labs, what exactly is it? Like, what do people have a purpose for it? What's keep the lights on, network operations center, and security operations center? So KTLO is keep the lights on, right? My job is to keep things running. And we say keep the lights on, but that's just operations. We call that operations. So you'll hear people say, well, how's the KTLO going? And they're just saying keep the lights on, keep the servers running, right? We don't want any of those servers to go dark. Network Operations Center, Security Operations Center, Help Desk, different types of a lot of people think of these as entry-level roles. And as you operate systems, then you learn systems and you start to build and design new systems. We want to be over here because it pays more. But you never get away from doing these because even when you're a systems engineer, they will always call you forever for the systems you built. So that's always going to be there. All right. Anyway, so I'm pulling that up, and we're going to keep going through this. But yeah, a home lab. Like in my home lab, I have a bunch of stuff that people can connect to, and I've got stuff that's just happening in my home lab like this. Like we can check on Ranger. How's Ranger doing? That's my dog downstairs. We can check on Prolog. So how is our Linux users group doing from like a perspective of how long my servers have been? Oh God, some of the servers need to get patched. How many users are on? We got a bunch of users in doing stuff. how much CPU is being used across the space, and I just monitor stuff, right? A bunch of monitors and stuff. So what are we doing with the home lab? All kinds of things. Just building out servers, testing to prove that we can build something for ourselves, and then hopefully building out projects that look good on a resume. Because I tell you guys all the time, when you've got a resume, right? If you don't have any, you got to lead with what you're strong with, right? You got to lead with the good stuff. But if you don't have anything, you've got to start finding stuff to put on there. And that's why I tell you guys, go down here to our Discord and go to these free certs that are out there. There's free certs in the world. Although I think API Academy is still down, which is sad. Yeah, the thing's still down. That was a really nice one for a long time. And it teaches you how APIs work. And then there's chaos engineering, and they teach you how chaos works. No, they teach you about, they honestly, really, if you want to think about it, chaos engineering right here teaches you the scientific method in the systems world. Now, most of you say, oh, I know the scientific method. And I'm like, there's 6 steps. Can you name them? And you're like, I don't know the scientific method. They'll teach it to you, right? That's what they do. And they teach you how to apply that to, okay, I've got a set of servers running. I'm that guy that I said, you sit down at 9 a.m. and you assume the mantle of keeping these servers running. But you say, well, what if one of my servers just went down? What would happen? And you don't know until it happens, but with chaos engineering, you can seek to prove that, and then you can seek to test that in a safe environment in a safe fashion. And that's what that's all about. Then these two, the Six Sigma White Belt and Lean Six Sigma White Belt, just deal with process improvement. And all engineers need to understand processes, because that's what we do as engineers, is we watch a process run, and while it's running, we're happy. And when the process breaks, we go and figure out why, and we get it running again. That is our whole job. Keep things up. Uptime is the name of our game. In fact, tomorrow for our Linux Systems Administration group, on top of talking about disks, I'm going to be heavily leaning into what it means to be on an operations team. Because operations is where a lot of you are going to start. You're going to be maintaining servers. You're going to be keeping the lights on. You're going to be responding to trouble tickets from users, right? And these are things that we need to understand and know how to do. Okay. We keep going, and we look at, this is just whatever. Make that a little bigger in case we need to show anything over here. And yeah, so we need to understand that. We need to spend some time here. There's a free, I think it's still free, developer Red Hat. I think this subscription's still free last time I checked, because Red Hat wants more developers. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, they've got sandboxes and stuff out here. So I'm pretty sure you can get in here for free. Let's see if I'm giving you a good link. And I'm going to link this over here. Yep. So I'll put this right here. So there's also Red Hat stuff, right? Because Red Hat is the basis for Alma and CentOS type Linux, right? They want you to understand. Okay, so hold on real quick. Do you guys need that link? By the way, I think most of you are probably good on there. What do I think about KVM for home lab stuff, or Proxmox XCPNG is better out? Cuddlingus, I don't care what people use. Your home lab is obviously your home lab for whatever reasons. I think Proxmox and XCPNG might interact more like you will see things interact in the real world. Whereas, like, I don't know that KVM is bad. It's just that virtualization through a Type 1 hypervisor, which is what Proxmox and XCPNG both are, might give you more miles for your bucks, if that makes sense. Plus, Proxmox and XCPNG are both free. You just need the hardware to run them, right? Oh, and then you pay for the electricity that they use, right? So, all right. By the way, guys, I brought it up. I've shown you guys this, but Discord is there. Discord's free. You guys can hang out in Discord to your heart's content. Guys, the term is tilted. I was actually kind of pissed this morning. Somebody popped in there. I wasn't even up yet. It was like 5 something in the morning. Somebody popped in there and goes, "Is this where I learned Linux?" Oh, I guess this is a dead server, and he left like a minute later. And I'm like, what the hell? So I wake up, an hour and a half later. I'm going into my office to work. Like I'm walking to my office inside my home to work, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And I'm like, what is this guy doing? He's all mad that like somebody didn't respond to him. Like the butler didn't show up to like respond to him. And it's like, I was also a little miffed because there was a butler. We have a little automated bot that Fisherman runs, and I'm pretty sure the bot said hi to the guy. Hold on, let's go look. But then nobody responded to him within 10 seconds before that, and the guy got all, yeah, it was, I was not super happy about this. Where's this at? Oh, hold on. It was today. Hold on. Let's go to general here. It was so it was 5:40. 5:40 a.m. this morning. I don't mean to call anybody out, but it's like, it's real weird to come in somewhere. He showed up at 5:39, and by 5:40 he was already done because nobody answered him in the first fucking 3 seconds of existing. Yeah. Oh yeah, when was this one sent? This was sent within the same minute. Oh my god. Oh god. Oh gosh, I can't even deal with that. All right, anyways. Like, okay, our Discord's dead because half of the world is asleep and nobody responded to you within a minute of you showing up. Oh my gosh. All right, well, I mean, it is what it is, guys. I'm not gonna be one of those guys that hammers on that. But that one did get me a little mad today because I was like, do you know what? Oh man, I don't know. Like, I feel like this is valuable stuff to be given away for free. I know people go and pay people to motivate them for this kind of stuff, and it's like just it's like some people you just need permission to do it. Oh, did they change the name? Hold on. Did they change the name of it? Are they changing the name of it? It's not over here now, is it? Well, that's scary. I would never ever click that. That's like I am 100% sure I will never click on this. Where the hell is this back-ended to? Well, we can go look into that. But did it change to that? I wonder if did they move to that like was just mentioned. Let's go look over here. Did they give a new? Yeah, Andrew Barth, that would be super useful if we did find that it moved. Just click somewhere in here. Well, I mean, even as of, oh, that's the other day. All right, I'm gonna go put my info in there if you say it's legit. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like they're using this anymore. Maybe they changed the name with that as well. Hold on, let's go look. So, if it's lean upon now, I will go update that if that's the point. Oh, they've got some gamification stuff in here. All right. Lean upon. Learn upon or lean upon? Am I reading that wrong? I feel like my brain's not working right. I thought it said lean upon, but apparently that's learn upon. Maybe it's too far away. About us. Let's see if there's anything in here. Learn upon. Maybe they picked. I don't know. Maybe they picked it up because maybe when Broadcom, because Broadcom back-ended that for a long time. Maybe they stopped. Maybe they stopped running it. Well, I loved API Academy while it did exist. I don't know what, like, You would think that Broadcom would have, like, where they moved it. So here's Broadcom, right? And then they've got API Security, and then the API Academy, which they reference here. That's still linking to the same. Man, I need to put in a ticket with them and be like, hey, are you guys ever going to fix your API Academy? Oh, all right. Anyways, so we'll look at that. But that's the point is, you guys do need to know API stuff. So Miss Tulip Far, I'm not sure exactly how to say that. The IPv6 certificate. Yeah. What is IPv6 used for? So IPv6 is the always emerging newer version of IP addressing for the internet. IPv4 has been going away for over 20 years, but it has not gone away yet because we've managed to squeeze more IP addresses out of it with a tool called NAT and as a superset of that PAT. But anyways, so NAT is network address translation and port address translation. And it's the idea that all of us internal can have our own networks and stuff like that. Yeah, IPv6 it's just always emerging. And what it is, yeah, so what you tend to have, if we do like IP adder right here, you'll see that like this loopback address right here, which is our loopback of our system, he has both an IPv4, the very common 127.0.0.1 home, but he also has the INET6. So this is a dual stack or dual honed or multi-layer IPv4 and IPv6 address. So our loopback understands both, if you want to think of it like that. This would be like a dual language, somebody who's speaks both English and Spanish here in Arizona, right? Somebody who knows both of the languages that we speak out here, right? That would be this one. Now this one here, our primary interface, he only speaks IPv4. And then my Docker interface only speaks IPv4. But this flannel interface that I have, which logically exists inside, is both IPv4 and IPv6. As is this Calico, but except this Calico only speaks IPv6. We can't use IPv4 with it. Yeah, so there's all this stuff going on here. Yeah, there's a lot here. But if I were to ask you which of these are like dual honed or like full stack, like IPv4 and IPv stack addresses, this one can do both, and this one can do both right here. These ones can only do IPv4, and these two can only do IPv6. Then when we listen, so we do an ss-ntulp. And by the way, you guys could do this. You could be in the same environment with me right here. Killer Code Kubernetes. I'm going to make that just a little smaller so that we can see it. Make it even a little smaller. Hold on. Make it wider. Let's clear it. ss-ntulp. And when we look here and we see the listener ports right here, so here's our local address port. We are listening to IPv4 addresses here. That's a dotted decimal notation for IPv4. And then down here, this is an any for IPv6. So anybody coming in on any IPv6 address on this port. Anybody for IPv6 on this port. Down here is any IPv4 address on this port. And this is any IPv6 on this port. And then this last one, CUPS. Oh, God, CUPS is running. CUPS is only listening locally on IPv6 right here and locally on IPv4 only here. So that's what's kind of going on there. Also, turn off CUPS. Jesus, who runs CUPS anywhere? I read about this vulnerability a couple days ago. That's a 9.9. And then I was like, okay, this vulnerability is 9.9. That's about as high as it goes, guys. It only goes to 10. That's real high. And then it was CUPS, and I just laughed and put my phone down. And I'm like, oh my God, who is running? I haven't seen CUPS run professionally, and I have built hundreds of thousands of Linux systems, right? For thousands of different companies over the years, let's say, because I've done contract work, I've done all this other stuff. Who's running CUPS? Yeah, it's related to print. Who's running CUPS? And then I heard a bunch of people with their desktops were running it, and I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. I was like, you're kidding me. You guys are all making yourself vulnerable to something we all turned off over 20 years ago. CUPS was old when I started this in the early 2000s. CUPS was old and turned off. CUPS, I felt like I have all these different ones like this, but I need the one that goes playoffs. Don't talk about the playoffs. Hold on. If you guys have never seen this, this was a this wasn't a Cardinals one. This was a different one. But when Jim Mora goes, playoffs? Don't talk about the playoffs. Playoffs? And he's just all mad. Hold on. Can we get an image of it? Where he's just like, playoffs? Hold on. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? Like, because they weren't getting in the playoffs that year. I love this. Hold on, I need to download this. Save image as. We'll just throw it in our downloads for now. Playoffs? Don't talk about the playoffs. Turn that into one of these with all my other ones that I have. Playoffs? Yeah, some guy in a press pool just asked him about, hey, what are your chances of the playoffs this year? Like right after they lost. They were like, I don't know what they were, but they were doing pretty bad that year. They were like something bad, and he's like, playoffs? Anybody here from where Jim Mora used to be? I thought he was Colts, but I could be wrong. I haven't kept track of football in so long. But anyways, here's our local addresses and stuff. So the question was around networks and networking in general. So you need to understand networks and their configurations in Kubernetes. So do you understand? So experience with Calico or Cilium. So clear and kubectl git pods capital A. And I see all of these systems, and I thought we used to run Calico in here, but I don't see. Oh yeah, here's Calico. So we are running Calico in the system in some way, right? And it says that you need to understand Calico or Cilium, so you can come to Calico docs, right? Calico docs, and that's by Tigera or whatever. And here's your Calico documentation. So you need to go read a little bit about Calico for open source, which is how most of us use it. But they also mentioned in this one that you needed to know it in the cloud, so you might want to go read a little bit about the cloud stuff. Hey, Quartz, how's it going? I don't know. RoboDom, yeah. More memes, yeah. Quartz, you've been here the whole time, though, haven't you? Yeah. So anytime I see that little weird waving emote, I think somebody's saying hi. Calico, and then the other one is Cilium. Only one L, but... And they used to have a really cool free network policy editor, and I loved this. But now I think you have to sign in to use it. But this teaches you about network policies in Kubernetes. And network policies are a way to filter down either traffic coming in or out of pods, because one of the tenets of Kubernetes, one of the original written tenets of Kubernetes, is that all pods can talk to any other pods in any namespace. Now, that doesn't mean that you can talk to them easily. If you're within the same namespace, it's kind of like us all hanging around here, and I can just say, hey, RoboDom, how's it going? Hey, Quartz, how's it going? And I can use their first names, as it were. But if they were in a different chat, like they were somewhere else and I was trying to talk to them, then I would have to say like RoboDom at this and give like a fully qualified domain name to talk to him somewhere else. It's kind of like when you're at home and you can just call everybody by first name, but if you go to like talk somewhere else in another home, you've got to call over there. And this is back in the day when we used to have all landlines, right? You call over there and you say, hey, is whoever there? And then, you'd get connected or whatever. So... Mr. Extremely, my patch for cups anywhere I found it would be to turn it off. I would never run cups anywhere. Rogel Darn? I'm not sure what Rogel Darn is. RoboDom. He's one of the guys he's here talking. RoboDom. Does it sound like Rogeldorm to you guys? That's not good. It's like my speech impediment acting up that I thought we fixed in like 2nd or 3rd grade. But cups shouldn't be on anywhere. God. I was trying to explain this to my wife earlier because I called her and I said, cups? And she's like, what? And I was like, playoffs? Don't talk about the playoffs. Anyways, I told my wife, I was like, cups would be like if I called you up right now and yelled and I was like, we'll just say wifey, right? Wifey, we need to make sure that the structural integrity of the wings of Amelia Earhart's plane is good. She's going to be flying soon. And she's like, what? She crashed in like the 40s or something. I don't even know when Amelia Earhart crashed, but it was a long time ago. And she's been gone for a long time. So what do we care about the infrastructure or the structure of her wings on her airplane? She's gone. And that's how I felt about cups when I heard about it today. I was like, what in the hell? I didn't even know that thing was still being turned on default. I'm amazed. Probably on a bunch of like Kali boxes where people just turned on whatever the defaults were, you know? All right, anyways. Now, this next one is a fun one. Because experience with BGP is Border Gateway Protocol. And Border Gateway Protocol is, for most of you guys, and the reason they want this for a DevOps role is mostly, so all BGP is between autonomous systems, what we call AS in the networking world. So you say, well, what's an autonomous system? An autonomous system is like the edge of my network and the start of yours. The autonomous system defined is everything under the control of one administrator. So my autonomous system is all of my stuff, and then your autonomous system is all of your stuff. And if they touch at the edge, that tends to be talked about with BGP. And a good BGP start would be AWS BGP setup, because that's where you're going to run into it a lot in the cloud. And do they just have AWS BGP setup? They call their stuff best practices. So when you're looking for things, you talk about best practices. And then this is active passive BGP connections. And then they give you some drawings about what BGP means. And the BGP best path algorithm is wait, local preference, originate, autonomous system path, origin, med, which is med paths router ID. So that's another one of these. People in networking love these. And then you need to know how BGP figures out where it's going to send things, right? So BGP is your border gateway and how things talk to each other. So that's why they want you to know that. And then, yeah, all CNI uses that. Good. All right, so let's do 5. And experience with Terraform and TerraGrunt, right? So how are we going to learn about how to use Terraform? Some of you guys know that Terraform got split off to Open Tofu. That's happened at the same time as all of this other stuff that happened with the business source licensing. But where would I go learn Terraform? So let's say learn Terraform. And I go to learn Terraform, and here's our tutorials.terraform, and they've got some really good Terraform stuff. But what is Terraform? It is a let's just call it is a tool that uses what we call what do we call them? Not modules. I gotta actually go look in there. They're not modules. Let's just go in the tutorials here real quick, because you use your Terraform plan to pull them all down. But what are they called? Yeah, that's what they are. Terraform uses provisioners, which are or aren't community, which are or aren't enterprise maintained, right? So some of them are more well maintained than others to interact with APIs for you in a controlled and repeatable way. It keeps the state of deployed resources in local files for you to maintain, backup, and modify, but I would be very careful about modifying those. They even tell you don't modify them. Yeah, they're called provisioners. Yeah, you download the provisioners. And there's actually, when you go into Terraform, you can say Terraform provisioners. Providers? Provisioners. Yeah, provisioners, yeah. And then here's all, where the hell are these? the hell? I just want all the... I just want the repo of all of them. Give me that. What the hell's going on here? That's what it looks like when you call one down. And then you can't use one until you've actually downloaded it locally, and then you can lock it into a certain version and stuff. But where the F is their page for... All right, I'm done. I'm done with the internet today, guys. All done. All done. Kind of pissed. Like, what the hell? All right, anyways. Experience using CI/CD such as GitLab, so you could just put it on your resume, you know, show your GitHub. A lot of people, you know, you can go beef up your GitHub pretty nice, at least put it out there, right, to show it to people. Sinbleed, I'm sorry I'm missing all your stuff. You know, the BGP internally use the LSM prefix. Fast prefix match from packet leaf socket. Yeah, I have never used BGP internally. Yeah. So show your GitHub. Talk about some of your experience on a team doing code reviews, right? I think code reviews are probably one of those things that you need to understand. Maybe understand branching and forking of repos. And that's not all just like knowing how to do it technically. That's also understanding why we do a thing, right? That's probably the main ones that I would do there. 7. Experience with telemetry. What is telemetry? It's literally data at a distance, right? So how do we gather telemetry, right? We gather with tools like maybe metric beats. Metric beat. You've got Telegraph. You've got Node Exporter, right? Those are all common ones. And then they want you to be able to do Prometheus, which is your aggregator, Alert Manager, FluentD is one of your collectors, and then Grafana is your visualization piece of it. So they want you to know some of that stuff. And I've got labs out there where you guys can build that. If you're like, hey, you know, I don't know, I've never built Prometheus or any of those things. I actually have labs here. If you go in here, I'll just link the first one in there. But you guys can go in there. Oh, nice, Doc. Okay, I'm gonna check that out here in a second. I just looked over on the YouTube side, and Doc said that the Academy stuff should be good. Give me a second. I'm gonna go check that out real quick. So let's go here real quick, and then go. I want to show you guys my lab that starts it all off. So you can do logs with Loki, and then these other ones, and these teach you. Let me see if I can just connect? Well, fuck it, connect that way. That is a way to, I think, learn a little bit about it, and then get in there and build some of this type of stuff, right? This type of monitoring. This is all telemetry here. It's all data to distance, metrics, right? Oh, but let me go check on this. The API Academy learn upon. I thought that was lean upon. Jeez. Okay. Let me see if I can just reset my password. Give me a second here real quick. What's my email for API Academy? I haven't been down here in a long time. What did I use for that? All right. You know, I'll check that out. I'll probably check that out later, because it was gonna make me put that in and find all that stuff. That's too much work. But I am gonna update that then on the Discord here. In the beginner start here. Let's go fix that real quick. Make that a little bigger. Hold on. make sure that this will take somebody to a real link. Okay. Good. All right. Let's edit this. There we go. Boom. All right. So now we're not sending people to a bad link anymore, and hopefully that works for everybody. Okay. Good. There we go. All right. Yeah. Oh, speaking of getting scared, Doc mentioned over on the YouTube side that I've scared you guys before. I don't mean to, but if you guys want to see, you know, how many people have been trying to get into my system in the last 6 hours, here's my logs. And I remember I told you guys you got to get logs off servers in real time. Here's my logs of all the people with their IP addresses. I'll give their IP addresses out to any of you if you want them. Here's all the people that have failed to get into my system. By the way, nobody here should be like, he's showing my IP address because I connected. No, these are only failed connections. They're not any real connections. All right, so Razushi, there's a question here earlier, actually. It's funny. It's because there's a question about backups. So let's go up here let's go find where backups was mentioned back here in one of these earlier talks, and we'll go see how do we do backups. And yeah, performing routine system. What the hell just happened here? Yeah, perform routine system backups and disaster recovery procedures. This was another task that somebody wanted us to know how to do in one of our other jobs that we found. And I said, typically there's this rule. Some people call it the 3-2-1 rule. Guys, I've seen this rule written out like a million ways. Oh wow, they tried some random username S Champagne. That scan. Yeah, Cyber Dante. That's not. That's probably somebody who tried to log in as me, or that actually that was me logging in. So that actually is my real one. But here's the thing: I don't mind showing that to people because one, I pull that up on stream often, and two, anybody that tried to use that 5 times would just get themselves locked out forever from their IP. So, like, I'm not so worried about that. Plus, once they got in. They could damage my jump server pretty much, but that's about it. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff. You'll find that they do a lot from root, and one of our best practices in securing root is don't allow people to come in as root most of the time. So, right, make them sudo up once they get over. Yeah. People still root login will not be disabled on some systems that are internal. For cluster reasons sometimes. So a lot of times people will still be using root in a system. And there's reasons for it. If you understand the reasons, it's okay to do certain things. But yeah, you need to make sure that some of these things are protected. Yeah, this was me failing to log in earlier today. That's funny. And I can see where I came from and all that stuff. This was an internal address. That's my laptop internally on my network. So that's kind of funny. Funny that got caught too. Because I show that, I show my username when I come in. Yeah. Well, somebody could now know that, and they could try, right? Because I give you guys, I have a dynamic DNS, and people that are in our Discord can get into my systems, right? We track everything. I think everybody knows that. I track everything, but we have a lot of users in my system. I'd say probably half of these are people coming in. Probably only these are me, and then these are all other people over here. So, when I'm up to like 14, 15, that's just users connected doing whatever. Yeah, but no, that is actually my username in my home lab, yeah, on my jump box. That's funny. Oh, so here's what I would say though, when we're talking about like backing stuff up. So Razushi asked about like how do you do backups, right? And this is the general architect answer. We need 3 copies of the data, 1 to be in production to be used, and 2 backed up in some way. 2 of them they should be on at least 2 different types of media. Meaning, if these 3 here, if one is in prod is on spinning disks, and one of the backups is also on spinning disks, the last one should be over on tape or something, tape or just some other type of storage, and then always one should be off-site. And when we say off-site, we mean not off-site. In this context means you cannot process it. It's not able to be, somebody comes in and they compromise your system and we don't allow them to process it all. Let me show you guys. I have this talk. Let me ask you guys, would this be interesting to you? Hold on real quick. Let's go. This is just my, let's go to my documents. Let's go to my Linux group. And then we'll go to our presentations, right? And would you guys be interested in us talking over, I haven't talked about this for a while. I pulled it up the other day, but it's from my Solutions Architect Pro, which some of you guys know I am a Solutions Architect Pro. And it had to deal with ransomware protection. Do you guys want to go over, by the way, I don't care if you guys know my name, some of you guys know that. Do you guys want to go over kind of ransomware? This was a talk I originally gave at AAA when I was there, and it was dealing with ransomware and like what is the problem of ransomware. I mean, this is huge. This has been huge for a long time. But do you guys want to see how, because the crux of this is how does an offsite thing protect us, right? When we look here, how does having an offsite tool like Bacula, which I'm a Bacula certified administrator, which I think is hilarious. It's hilarious because I went and took their training and nobody else wanted to take their thing, and I was like, I'll take it. And they made me do a take-home test on on Thursday night, and I had until the end of the weekend to turn in this project that built out a whole Bacula system. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And Bacula is a free and open source tool if you've never heard of it. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pull that up and put that in here for this part of the talk. Hold on. This is this is such a good tool. And if you've never heard about it, this is used in big government systems. They've got back-end support and stuff. But Bacula is free for you to play with and use in your home. And you can use this to back up your stuff if you needed to. Bear OS. Let me see that. Yes. Barrows backup. That also open source? Interesting. I like their name. I like when names do stuff like that. Maybe other people don't, but I do. And it's a fork, and it's got some of these different things. They're doing the same type of thing. This is the same idea. You've got one director. You've got a file daemon on a server. The file daemon goes to the storage daemon. The director is just telling the different servers' file daemons what to do, and they're talking to the storage daemon directly. That is an increase of backup and restore speed at a level that can really, depending on how your storage daemon's working, that can be network speed. That can really be limited by only the bottleneck of your switches, which means that backups can happen really fast and restores can happen really fast too, because things don't have to come through a centralized point. So that's really huge. I'm gonna throw this in there too, even though I don't know much about it. Just do this and then say Bacula and then Bear OS. I like that. And then this will be an update to the stuff that we had done. We had done this earlier. But let me ask this. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys. Unfortunately, I can't ask YouTube. On YouTube side, you're just going to have to say yes or no, I guess. But over on the Twitch side, I'm going to make a little poll. I'm going to manage a poll. And I'm going to say, do we do the ransomware talk? So do we do the ransomware talk? Yes, no, and then you can vote. And I'm only going to give you 3 minutes, because then we're going to decide what we're doing next. Also, I'm going to go grab a drink here. No, I'm not going to get a drink yet, because I'm going to get a drink when the wife comes. So I won't go grab a soda. I was going to grab a Monster, but I don't need one now. Do we do the ransomware? And did I spell ransomware? I don't care. All right. So the question is, do we do the ransomware talk right now? And I probably have just about enough time to finish it before the wife gets home. So, because when the wife gets home, she's bringing me dinner. So we're going to hang out. It's date night. You guys only get me for a little bit. Right? Understand the telemetry stack. We went through that. Yep. And by the way, guys, all these notes right here. So let's see. This may be as far as we go. Let's see how that talk's doing. It looks like 5-0, so it looks like we're going to do the talk. But I've been taking these notes right here. These notes. And I've been dropping them in the Discord under... I think we did it in... I think I put in jobs stuff. Hold on. Jobs and interview. So I'm going to... Let's delete the whole I'm gonna delete that whole talk, that whole thing. And I'm just gonna say down here, updated from tonight's stream. Or today's stream, really. And then that's the update of all the things. Also, we do post jobs in here. I know some of the recruiters that are looking for some of these. Jared posted, and he knows some of the people. Jared's a very good resource. Is that? Wait, hold on. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. That's all before you download it. Good. All right. Do we do the ransomware talk? It looks like we're 6-0. And then 7 over on the YouTube side. Pi Gamer said, "Do I always release the?" Yes, I always put them in the in our Discord. So anybody that wants to, Robodom, will you give them all the Discord? Oh, it looks like he has been. Make sure you guys, yeah, Discord's free. You guys are welcome to hang out. And again, maybe you find, like I tell you guys all the time, like this isn't the Scott show. This isn't about me. This is about you guys getting into the field and doing this stuff professionally. And maybe you find other people that are looking to do the same types of Linux things as you, and then you find some other people. And look, I don't care if you go start your own server. I don't care if you go and hang out in our Discord and talk down. We've got the little voice channels and stuff. You do whatever you want, right? Like short of doing illegal activities, I really don't care what you guys do in there, right? The only thing I care about is if you show up, shit on the place like that guy did this morning, and then leave before I can even kick you out. I wasn't going to kick him out. I've never kicked anybody out of our Discord. Do you guys know that? I've removed 3 users that were like, they were compromised. They had have you guys ever seen that where somebody just comes in and just starts hitting every channel with some bullshit like porn or something? Those are the 3 times that's happened. One of the times it was my son's account. All right, poll ended. It says yes, so we're doing it. All right. So guys, I'm going to have to move fast on this one because I don't want to have to stop it like in the middle. But this is by me, Scott Champagne, right? And I'm going to just, I'll talk through it. You know what? Let me kill this other one. And then I'll talk through it on this one. So this one will be my presenter. So if I need to draw anything. But we're going to go fast. We're not going to hang up on the stuff. When I was first doing this talk, it was for a bunch of professionals that were working on their Solutions Architect Pro. And this was one very, very, like, tailored in thing for my company. But anyways, okay. So this is stuff you don't need to know right now. You do need to understand identity and access management policy, but for the purposes of this talk, we're going to skip this for now. And then I say, all right, let's get started. This is a fire hose, right? Like we're drinking from a fire hose. Drollsat, you said I was a Linux system administrator in the 90s. I haven't done anything related to that on a professional level since. It's interesting to see how things have changed. I think a lot of the command line stuff hasn't changed, but yeah, the tools being used on top definitely has changed for sure. All right, so here's a bunch of references. And again, this is up in the Discord. I think it's just in presentations, but this is my ransomware talk. So if you look for ransomware, here's the things that I went and used and where I found a lot of these things that we're going to be talking about. All right, so ransomware, what is it? Oh, and then here's more references of archiving and stuff. And specifically, I was showing people how it works to be doing AWS, doing this for AWS, because we were an AWS shop where I was, right? So, all right. So here's our overview of the ransomware challenge. What is ransomware trying to do to you? It's trying to do 2 things, and then how does it work? What doesn't work? What does the government say to do? What does work? So, what did I say? Hold on. The ransomware challenge. This should really say. How does stopping it work? I don't know why I worded that like that. But what doesn't work to stop it? What does the government say you should do? And what does work? So how do we stop ransomware? So this is a ransomware challenge, and then yeah, this is how does it work? Yeah, so that's should be its own. Anyways, and then a high level is return to operations and recovery point objectives for our systems, or how we're bringing systems back online. And then I talk a little bit about AWS Virtual Tape Library and how that works. And then I talk about some of the tools that are out there, like supporting vendors and those kind of things. So, all right. So this is a big blast of stuff that you guys can read. And typically, if you're giving a presentation and you have a big block of code like that, you shouldn't read it to people because that's stupid. What I'm going to do instead is tell you that there's 2 things that ransomware tries to do. And you can read it up there if you want. But what the 2 things it's trying to do is encrypt your data in such a way that you no longer have access to it. That's actually its second thing. The first thing it's trying to do is steal your data. So they want to access your data and steal it, and then they want to further encrypt it so that you no longer have access to it. They are violating they're violating all pieces of the CKA triad, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. They want to steal your data so they can see it and sell it. They want to change the data in some way that you no longer have access to it. And then the availability of the data goes to zero, so they've won by beating you in all three areas, right? So this is what they're trying to do, right? This comes directly from one of those earlier mentioned government docs, right? So how does it work, right? What happens is you've got some message called hold my beer, and then you use an encryption key, and now you've got it encrypted as ciphertext, and then the decryption key that you would use is either a related key or the exact key. If it's a symmetric encryption protocol, the encryption key and decryption key are the same. You guys probably know that. If you don't, I'd write it down. Symmetric encryption, the encryption key and the decryption key are the same. It could be that I encrypt things and decrypt them with an asymmetric process where I have a private key and a public key, and those are just designators that we use, but they're cryptographically similar keys, and one can encrypt and the other can decrypt rather, but they're the only two that can do those mathematical functions on that bit of data, right? So this is how encryption works. And the basic security triad over here is integrity, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. People call that the CKA triad. So what happens how does ransomware come in here and break all this? This is what they do. They take your data, especially if they can get it unencrypted, and they're going to further encrypt it they're going to force encryption, and then they're going to remove the key so you don't have it. Sometimes they don't even take the key themselves. Typically they do so that they can sell it to you, but they could pretend to sell you any key. So their process doesn't actually have to save a key if it doesn't want. Then now you've got this encrypted BS, and they'll sell you back the decryption key so that you can get back at your data. But this is a problem because, again, if they find your data in this state, they're going to steal it first. And then when they do this, you've lost the integrity over your data until they give you the key back, and then you can decrypt it. Some people out there, like this happened a few years back, there was a big rail company out here in the US, and they got absolutely just compromised, right? And they paid a huge ransom. They paid millions and millions of dollars. It was like tens of millions of dollars. And then they got the key back, and they started to decrypt their data and found out that like their data was almost useless. So they ended up having to recover from offsite backup anyways. But all this to say that this process and being able to deal with your data only happens on online data, on data that is actually working and can be touched by a process. If you have data that's off site, it can't be touched through a process. I mean, I guess somebody can go and scrape on your tapes if they can get into Iron Mountain, but they can't write and change your tapes, right? So that company, even though they paid like tens of millions of dollars, they had to still load a bunch of their stuff from backup. They lost, many, many hundreds of millions of dollars in process time. And I don't even know if they still exist. Big rail company out here in the U.S. It was a big thing in the news because it was a big compromise when it happened. So what doesn't work against ransomware? Well, the server has crashed. Where's the backup? On the server. That doesn't work. I got this meme a while back, and I just think it's hilarious, right? So the server's crashed. Where's the backup? It's on the server, right? So now you're not getting it back, right? And this is another thing to think about. If you're using a tool like Backup or Bacula or that Bear OS, and that server gets compromised, well, now you've got to rebuild that server before you can even get your tapes back anyways, right? So all these things are part of your business continuity, which is your BC, your business continuity, and your disaster recovery plan, right? Business continuity focuses on the services that are provided past the technology stuff, and disaster recovery focuses on the things that have to be up and the processes and the services that are up to make those things happen, right? So business continuity drives, or what we call informs, our disaster recovery planning, right? And then we tend to have certain things that have to come up faster because other things are going to come up after them. We start to have critical paths and stuff like that. And if you say, I've never heard of any of this, it's a very good chance that you're working in a place that doesn't do any of this, and you need to start studying some of this stuff and working on it for yourself, and maybe even setting up the plan for you, or setting up the plan for your organization. And I've shown you guys, I'm going to give you tools here for that, but there's a lot of stuff to go read about and study. All right. So what doesn't work against ransomware? Having a highly available system does nothing to protect against ransomware. So you've got an elastic load balancer in front of 10 web servers, and somebody compromises your web servers, and then they get in back to your, they get back to that tasty data in the database, and they can start to change it because those servers have access to change or create new users or whatever. That does nothing. The highly available portion of that, which is the load balancer as a reverse proxy feeding a bunch of back-end systems that are always available, does nothing to protect against the ransomware in that case. Encrypting data at rest, which is a standard that we always say, if data are sitting around, you should have them encrypted. But having them also encrypted at rest or transit does protect about the dissemination of data. So remember I told you the first thing they want to do is get your raw data and sell it to people or threaten you that they're going to sell it. Well, if you keep your data at rest protected or in transit, it does protect against that first part. However, it does nothing to stop from further encryption. So if they can get at your S3 buckets and encrypt everything in there, because they've compromised a server that has write access, this is still going to be a problem, but this is no longer a problem. You no longer have to make that call about, you don't have to call 40 million of your users and tell them we've lost your PII. And the rule there, guys, this is one of the most important rules I can tell you if you're going to be a security type person around this. Do not let your customers find out from the news. They should hear it from you. If they hear it from the news, you've probably lost a customer. It's a very important thing to understand. If the news publishes it first and you hear about it, you hear about the big data breach of everybody's social security online, instead of from the company that was supposed to keep your social security, well, there you go. By the way, they were all compromised in the U.S. the other day, so it doesn't really matter. Also, mine was compromised back when I was in the Army. When I joined the U.S. Army in 1999, they still used our social security numbers for our service IDs. So if you ever got like one of my legal military records of any type, it would show you my social security number, which I think is hilarious. Yeah. An immutable database backend means nobody can change your database, or backend writes can slow down the spread. They'll slow down the spread by having immutable databases. But if they're able to compromise some of the data, that data is eventually going to be encrypted and written into your immutable databases. So you're going to have the same type of problem. So that doesn't help. And ignoring the potential problem by sticking your head in the sand as a company doesn't help either. So we've got to think about how we can actually, protect our systems. And the thing that does work, what does the government say to do? So this comes directly from the government docs. And the ones that I say are the most important in this is down here. It's make an incident recovery plan, which is comprised of your business continuity plan and your disaster recovery. Backup of the data, secure your backups and test your restoration. And I say this to you guys often. If you back up data and secure it, that's good. But you do not have a really tested plan until you restore data into the location you want to use it. So that's important. And then keep your contacts, maintain a list of who to contact in the case of ransomware attacks. Because, again, if that list is on the server, that's a problem. Anyway, so this is other things. Educate employees. Avoid having vulnerabilities. Patch your stuff. These are all things that people should be doing anyways, but it's very important. And then make it harder for it to spread by doing these other things. These other things are valuable, but this is what we're talking about here. Making an incident recovery plan, backup, secure your backups, and test. That test is very important. And then keep your contacts list. Okay? So what does work? Anybody remember this? This was the very end of the first of the big X-Men movies that came out in the early 2000s. Remember, Magneto was finally captured, and you can't put any metal anywhere near Magneto. He'll kill everybody. So true offsite backup of the data that is air-gapped from the original system. Meaning, and educate end users like Carl. Yeah, and Bob Blurski. Any of you guys know Bob Blurski? He's the original Linux systems administrator nightmare. Some of you guys have done the Fisherman Guybro course where he walks you through and makes you do sysadmin work. And as you're doing this sysadmin work, this guy Bob Blurski just keeps getting worse and worse. All right, so you know, we have air-gapped systems, so there's no processes touching this, so it's a lot easier to get in there. Yeah, glass guns, yeah. All right, so here's a tape library. If you've never had an on-site tape library, this one, if I had to guess, is probably, this is the same one. It's funny, this is the same model I set up at NOAA. This is the same exact library, well, same general type. And I want to say this is a 6U system, but it might only be 4. I think it's 6U. So the U's are 1.75 inches, right? So we could actually figure out the height of a tape and then figure this out, right? Because it's that many tapes tall. But what this is this is the library, and there's one on this side and one on this side of all the tapes. And these are LTO-8 tapes. And we could go, and you could say, how much storage is there really in an LTO tape system? Like how much storage could I really get out of this on these off-site, you know, and when we're done writing these, we take them actually out and put new ones in and throw them off-site, and they're barcoded with numbers and stuff. But how much data can I really get in there? So here's an old powder horn. I used to work with a couple of these at Lockheed Martin. There is a thing, it says it right on these typically. Do not go inside of here when this thing has power to it, because this thing will kill you. That's not a joke. The arm in here that spins would grind you around those tapes like nothing. It would kill you. It's a very powerful drive motor on it, up and down, and you could try to dodge it like you're in one of those game shows or something, but you would end up smeared all over the place. When that thing moves, it's fast. All right, but anyways, old powder horn, don't go in there. But here's the capacity. So I said those were LTO-8 tapes, right? So what if I told you, let's do a little bit of math here real quick. LTO-8 tapes are 30 terabytes compressed, right? 30 terabytes, that's about what you get out of them. And what if I told you that thing held, let's go right here, pull up our old little calculator here. That thing holds 96 of them. So 96 times 30. That's how many terabytes. So that is a 2.8 petabyte system right there. That little system we were just looking at. This guy right here. 2.8 petabytes. Now, hold on. You can rotate these tapes out and go put them off site. So now you're getting more and more. It's way over that. You're getting more and more out of that because you just keep generating more and more out there. Z-Love, you're better at, dodging random lasers for sure. But you only got to get hit once, right? That's the problem with any of those things. They only got to catch you once. So LTO-8 is here, and then look, 9, and then, man, they're just getting bigger and bigger. LTO-12 is planned. I don't know when they're planned. I actually took this a while back. Oh, and then this was 12 terabytes. So this is if you take the raw system. So if you just take the raw native capacity uncompressed, you're looking at still 1 terabyte almost inside of one of these 80 drives. Oh yeah, so this was 80 as opposed to 96 as I was mentioning. So that doesn't take into account rotating tapes out because you can get more and more storage out of here, right? But I want you, the reason I showed you this is because this still exists in data centers. This is a tape library. What we're going to do in AWS is a virtual tape library, a VTL, and it's going to do all this for you up in the cloud. So you don't need to own the device, and you don't need to, oh man, rotating tapes is the worst job. I absolutely hated it, guys. I hated it. It was the worst. It was the worst job I've ever had in my career because I would check all those tapes, and they would all be right, and then one of them would be wrong, and I'd have to pull it back, and I wouldn't know where it was, and I absolutely hated it. I hated it. Like, you could do everything right, but one freaking 6 or whatever. And you might say, well, Scott, hold on. They're color-coded, so it makes it easier. I'm colorblind, guys. So, like, I don't remember that ones are always that color. I don't code in color like that. It doesn't work for me. So I would have to do all the numbers every time. Like, I think 9s are blue or something, whatever. I don't know. I can't really see them, or purple, whatever that is. Right? I can't see them well enough that I use them. So my brain just drops it out. So anyways, my point is I mess it up and I don't like it. So anyways, here's the thing to understand. If you have a crash or an outage or a ransomware event and it happens right here, your recovery point objective is how much of your data to the most recent time do we get back? And our return to operations, or recovery time objective, some people call it, is how quickly do we get back up and running? And the more you try to squeeze these in, The more you tell me, hey Scott, like this is really where we need to be, right here. We need to be right in here. And the more you do that, the more money it costs, right? So over here it might be less, but as you go this way, it's more and more money, right? One of my favorite Mel Brooks lines ever is in Spaceballs. Have anybody here seen Spaceballs before? In the movie Spaceballs, they say, "Are we gonna see you again, Yogurt?" Because he's basically like Yoda. Some people haven't, Z-Love. Man, you got to remember, half the people watching this are younger than that. So, yeah, if you haven't, stop right now and go watch that. But they ask him, "Yogurt, when will we see you again?" And he says, "You may see me again, but not in this movie. You'll see me again in Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money." And he does it in his like great Mel Gibson delivery. And it was always like one of my favorite lines ever, was "The Search for More Money." Anyways, if you squeeze this in, the more capabilities that you go here, the more money it's going to cost. Yeah, Mel Brooks. Did I say Mel Gibson? Oh my God. Oh my God. Did I just say Mel Gibson? Man, maybe I have like a man crush on Mel Gibson or something. It was Mel Brooks. You guys are right. Mel Brooks. Somebody, if I really said Mel Gibson, will somebody clip that? Because I'm going to show that to the wife here in a little bit. She's going to be like, "Did you say Mel Gibson?" That's what my wife sounds like when she's making fun of me. All right. So what's the trade-off then, right? With like having a tape library locally or using AWS, like using a service, right? Because when I was doing this was for our cloud engineering groups, right? So what is the trade-off with AWS virtual tape library of that, right? So again, you're going to trickle out storage for years and years. You're going to be moving tapes out with the hope that you literally never have to bring it back, right? Z-Love, I'm pretty sure this is on Discord somewhere. Yeah, hold on. I'm pretty sure I've put this up in presentations before. Hold on. Let me make sure. If it's not, I'll put it up there. Different costs of ransomware stuff. Could have sworn there was a ransomware summit a while back. Yeah, we got a lot of good stuff up here. But, well, apparently I don't. So I'll make sure I'll put it up here in a little bit. It's possible that I didn't put it up because I just didn't think it was that good. So, anyways, return to operations is slower than disk-based recovery, assuming that the disks aren't part of the blast radius, right? So, if the disks are part of it, then you're going to have to wipe all those anyways. But so if the disks are what are compromised, this doesn't really matter. Your returning to operations is slower than the disk-based recovery. That's true, but what if those disks are affected? Then it doesn't even matter, right? However, if blast radius is contained due to other protections, data can be retrieved in similar times to pulling physical tape from an offsite storage. So if you had disks somewhere and you had to load disks up into a system and then rebuild the RAIDs and get all the data off them, you're probably going to have similar times because I know with Iron Mountain, you can get an emergency delivery dropped to you in under like 6 hours. Look, if you're already talking about losing money, you don't think about, oh, hey, the Iron Mountain's going to cost another $1,000 to drive it out here today. Yeah, well, we're losing $5,000 an hour. Or when I worked at GoDaddy long ago, and this was early 2000s, and I remember I used to see how much we made every 5 minutes there, and it was a lot of money. You should not ever have let those systems go down, right? When GoDaddy in the early times of it making money, right? But the benefits here are cheaper storage and the protection of an air-gapped solution, meaning you don't have the ability to change it even if you compromise my systems. So all I need to do is clean out the compromised systems and then reload my data. And then rotating physical tapes to an offsite facility is a process most engineers detest, but only one engineer was interviewed as part of this study, so I don't know. Actually, every time I say that, like other engineers are like, I hated doing that too. So I always get like 2 or 3 people who just tell me, oh, that's terrible as well. So I was the only one that I interviewed here, but most everybody agree with me that like tapes are the worst, right? All right, so anyways, here's the virtual tape library architecture. So remember before I had a device sitting here in my elevation rack, let's say, but now here's your data center and here's your data center, and then you've got your clients writing data to some backup application, and then that backup application would be sending data up to a gateway VM, and that's going to just move data up to your virtual tape backed up by Amazon S3. And then this can throw data to a tape shelf, which is offline archive storage, which costs less to store. And then you can retrieve it inside of the virtual tape library system when you want. And then you can read it in real time, faster than tape speed even, downloading it back to your system. Now, you are going to have the same type of problem that you would have in a normal tape system, where even though these load quickly, you've still got to pull the data down, so it's going to take time. And that time is going to be based on the size of your pipe, what we call your network connection. And there are other ways to speed it up if you really need to, but suffice it to say, you're going to be able to pull data back. There is a service with Amazon Virtual Tape Library where if this was going to take too long to pull down, like let's say it was going to take 2 weeks to pull all your data back and you had a disaster, they actually have a service. Again, this costs a little bit of money. They will ship you out one of their devices that has all of your data loaded on it. You'll connect that up to your network and you'll bring all your data down at your line speed, which is going to be your internal LAN speed is always going to be faster. Nowadays, most of us in our LANs are operating up to 10 gigs per second, and 10 gigs per second, we're just going to chew through any amount of data that we're bringing down. And then that might only take days instead of weeks to get your data back. And that's good, right? All right. And then now you think about that and you go, well, while that's happening for all my old data, could I just prioritize certain data? 100%. You prioritize based on your business continuity plan. That's your BC. What do I need to get up and running first? What's the most important thing to have come back up? Let's see. You had a case quite a while ago where they took tapes every day, took them home, and then at the end of the week took them to a bank locker. They did that for years. When they needed recovery, they noticed that the tape drive was faulty and all the tapes were unusable. That is probably one of the most common types of things I've ever heard. I'm just going to call you Far. That's probably one of the most common things I've heard, where people never test. You don't have a fully operational backup solution and a disaster recovery solution until you pull data back. You never do. So in that case, yeah, the tape drive was faulty every time, right? A lot of modern systems will check that. They'll verify by like reading a file back to themselves and making sure things are good. They'll check some things, and then at the end they'll validate the checksum against everything they wrote. So things nowadays are better, but I've heard of things like that. In fact, one of my favorite ones ever was there was a teacher. This happened at the school district I was at, but it was before I got there. And this teacher, she would take one of those remember those old big floppy drives that people used to use before the 3.5? So floppy drives are old. And she would take it and she's like, okay, I would back up all my school stuff all week. And then at the end of the week, so that I would remember where it all was, I would take it and I would put a magnet on it and stick it to the side of a filing cabinet so that when I came in the next week, I could go off of the old data. But every time I do that, the data would be all ruined. And that story has been told a million different ways. But yeah, so that story has been told a million different ways, but I actually heard it from somebody who had seen it. I've heard of people talking about they just put it on a front of a fridge or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, because a lot of people don't know the magic that they're using is not magic. It's magnets. And this is not the ICP saying magnets, how do they work? Right? That's one of those old internet jokes, right? Yeah, and they just wipe all their data every week. So it's a free disk wipe, right? All right. So anyways, this is how the virtual tape library architecture works. You can go and you can use any of these vendors. So if you were using AWS already, these are all vendors that can go and connect instead of to one of those devices that I showed you, directly up to an AWS virtual tape library. It's iron oxide, yeah. So if you were already using Bacula, you can back stuff up with Bacula right into the cloud, right? And just point it towards your virtual tape library. Here's how you find it inside of the AWS marketplace. You just come up here and say, I need backup, or you come over here and you're looking for any of the specific publishers or what you're looking for here. Look, some things are Helm charts, some are container images you can download. And then they just give you what that would look like if you were to either run it up in the cloud or if you were going to run it on-prem, and they have different methods for you to run those things. All right. Then some pricing and deployment. So let's look at the costs and charges for virtual tape library pricing. So you can actually go to storage gateway pricing here. Oh, and then look, I have make a best guess estimate of what you're going to use. And then I have some steps here for like a hands-on replace tape within the cloud. But let me pull that back up real quick. Here's some pricing calculator. So let's go look at our pricing calculator here and figure out what will this probably cost us to do an S3 file gateway. We're going to go to a tape gateway. I'm going to use a tape gateway. And I'm going to write, let's say I'm going to write a little, like I'm a smaller company. I'm going to write 500 gigs a month out there. And my monthly cost for just running this is 5, right? I haven't added anything actually yet. So we're going to write 500 gigs per month. Okay. The data stored in the virtual tape library per month is, let's say we only have about 100 in there, because most of it's going to pass through into this archive. And the amount of virtual data archived every month is 400, let's say. And then the amount of virtual tape data archived in S3 Deep Glacier, let's say that's another 400 sitting out there. That's not adding too much to the cost. And then we say we hope to never have to bring any data out. So let's just leave that all empty right now. And then let's say that none of this is ever deleted early, right? So that's not going to cost us anything. Move from S3 Glacier to that. That'll be like 400 because every month we're moving that down. And we're not retrieving anything. We're just sending data down, right? And here's how all those costs are going to be transferred. Our data in transfer is always free. So bringing data in is free. That's fine. If we were bringing data in from other regions, that might cost a little bit. But in this case, it's all free as well. But we're not doing anything with that. All right, so right here, that's fine. So that's going to cost us $10 a month to store 500 gigs, and then it's probably going to slowly creep up as we keep adding that in there. But suffice it to say, that's pretty cheap, right? $10 a month that's about that's about 125 for the year. Is that right? Yeah, that's about 125 for the year. You just do it like this: 1042 times 12, right? Yeah, 125. I was pretty close. All right. So you come down here and you go, okay, that's that. But what if? But hold on. Let's take all this for a second. Let's take this and just leave it at 1042 for a second, and say, but what if I catastrophically had to bring everything back? And I say, okay, that's a terabyte maybe, and I need to retrieve a terabyte of all this data, right? What would that look like? It would be about a $30 charge. Let's just say if I had to bring back, that's 1 terabyte of data back, that would be $30. And I say, okay, that's pretty acceptable. And here's the breakdown of it right here too, of you were pulling all that data back, $30. So you say, is it acceptable to gamble on, maybe $10 a month of data sitting out there? And then I hope I never have to pull it back ever once. But if I do, it's going to be a little bit pricey, but that's way less than losing all my data forever. Yeah, so that's actually true. The GDPR, which is the data protection for Europe, we don't have a reciprocal agreement with them, by the way, in the US. I don't know if some of you know that. But you can be assured if you're using AWS and you're using a European region, you do know that your data is being stored there locally. That is actually part of their agreement. And since this is back-ended by S3, this is definitely going to be there. Yeah, so that is a thing. You can control the regions, yes. But that's a good thing. That is a thing to consider, guys. That is a thing to consider as engineers. Like, where are my data existing? The first time I ever heard about that was with Russia. If you do anything where you collect data on Russia's citizens, it has to be stored in Russia. Now think about it for a second. We're not in the US here on very good relations with Russia. Neither is most of Europe. But that doesn't mean other people aren't. That doesn't mean that China isn't doing deals with them and stuff like that. So where I'm going with that is China. If somebody was a Chinese company dealing with Russia, Russia has a law, national law, that you have to store those local people's data in Russia. So that Chinese company would have to do business and store their data in Russia. That's a real thing. That's not me making that up. You can go look that up. We don't do a lot of dealing with Russia nowadays as Americans. But one day again, when wars are off and that kind of stuff, there will probably be trade between the countries again. And when there is, you will have to think about those types of laws and those type of things again, right? This is a thing, man. This is really a big thing with global infrastructure. Yeah, Z-Love's right. It's one of the first things that pops up is where are you storing the data? All right. And then, you know, being regional. All right. So I did all that. I talked about all of it. The wife should be here soon. But, you know, we can make a best guess of what it would cost. And then there's a nice little hands-on demo. I think this demo should still be good. And it's like, I think this is dropping us in this other thing now. So this just talks about what Tape Gateway is and explains it to you. Is this a... Anybody need this? Anybody want me to link this to you? How does Tape Gateway work? That's the exact same thing I showed you. And then the tape gets sent up there. And your devices that interact with tapes know how to do this. So I'll link this to you guys over on the Twitch side and over on the YouTube side. There you go. All right. So, and then the last thing. Oh, so here's Bacula architecture, which Bear OS is very similar. You've got a director, and the director sits somewhere on a system, and the director has keys, and the storage daemons have keys, and all the clients have those keys, and the director tends to talk directly with the clients, right? The clients will talk to the director and say, hey, do I got any jobs, boss? And then the director will push jobs to them. And what will happen is those clients, these files will then talk directly to a storage daemon of some type, and that storage daemon will then take that data and write it to a virtual tape library or a disk and array that you have, or tapes, or up into the cloud, which is also virtual tape library, right? So you could have a virtual tape library on site if you wanted, but the point is you can send stuff up to the cloud, and then it's back-ended and it's stored off maybe every end of every day or every month or whatever, but it's trickling up and then it's locked in a sense where it can't be affected by processes that are running over here in your actual company, right? You can talk to the director through the text console. That's what I do. There's a graphic console. There's a B-Web suite. There's a couple of suites of web type interfaces to see what's going on and to report up how backups are doing. And then we can store data on the back end to like MySQL or Postgres. Those are the things to remember, right? And that's kind of the Bacula architecture, whatever. Moving on-premise back up to the cloud. So if you've got on-premise and you want to back up, this is the same kind of idea where some backup server is talking to a tape gateway. It sends it up into the cloud, and then it goes to our tape libraries and stuff. So there's multiple different ways to get backups into the cloud. But it's important to note, this one here has no offsite component. So if the files get corrupted because this machine that's allowed to write in there does encrypt them further, now you're compromised. This one is the same way. You're taking the volumes that are up here and you're attaching them to devices and writing to them and then backing them up. But if the real-time process changes them, this is also compromised. And you say, isn't that also true for Tape Gateway? It is. It is. If the real process wrote something in there that was encrypted, it would be encrypted. But the nature of way we write tapes is tapes are being written to and then going inbound, but the old ones are not being affected. So the old ones are a point in time locked forever until you pull them back and pull the data off of there, right? So something to think about. So there's our review. What's the ransomware challenge? There's two things they're trying to do. They're trying to get at your data and threaten you by selling it, threaten you with selling it. And they want to encrypt your data further so that nobody can use it and then force you to pay them money to get your own data back. That's the two things they threaten. How does it work? It encrypts your data further, and then they throw away the key, and they threaten to sell you the key, or they threaten to sell your data. Either one is both insidious. What doesn't work? Just hoping it doesn't happen to you. What does the government say to do? They've got a whole bunch of thoughts on it. I gave you guys a bunch of links in there. What does work? Some type of off-site tape library. That's the last piece of that 3-2-1 model where something is always offline. What is a return to operations or recovery point objective? It is how far back. So return to operations is how quickly are we back running, and recovery point objective is how far back does our data work? How far back do we actually have the data? Is it weeks back? Is it days back? We typically want that to be within minutes, but that can be kind of hard depending on what we were doing, right? There's a third option, pay them and they don't give you the key and ask for more. That's actually happened to people too, Z-Love. People pay, and then, or in the case of that rail company that I was talking about, they paid, and then the response took so long to get the key, and it took so long to whatever that they actually ended up just restoring most of it from tape anyways. And most all the time they require it in some kind of Bitcoin or something, so it's untraceable. So, yeah, oh, there's a bunch of stuff about that one. That one was more recent. What are some capabilities of AWS VTL? There's different architectures. There's a bunch of vendors you can use, and the costs are pretty upfront. It doesn't cost much to trickle data out there. It does cost a little bit to pull your data back, but that's better than losing all your data. It's better than losing all your data. All right. So here's some additional resources, places to call, places, people to talk to. Here's a book from one of our internal, this is one of our people that's around here, Taniwa, when they're around. But solving the bottom turtle, this is the zero trust model. And zero trust actually helps to reduce the blast radius of stuff. Yeah, Nick, we hit 10K 2 days ago. Yeah, so if you guys didn't know, we hit 10K over on YouTube, which is funny because apparently, well, one, YouTube is a way bigger pool of people than Twitch. And two, like, people on Twitch are mostly hanging around for video games, so I get that. But on the YouTube side, I think people are more looking for, like, there's people more looking to be educated about things. I think that's just the thing about it. Troll is at, you said how much Tape Gateway to cost for your Plex movie collection? $24K a month. Oh, that's that sounds a bit high. Were you also pulling it back every month? That seems a bit high because, like, let's just say, hold on, I gotta look at this because I'm curious now. Let's say that just deep store, really? I mean, do you have every movie ever made? I mean, it's possible you have every movie ever made. I actually, I used to have access to one of my buddy's Plex servers who had, I wouldn't say he had every movie ever made, but he had a lot of them. Hold on, let's go. 64 terabytes. All right. Let's go to VTP gateway pricing. Hold on. I just want to start up pricing. Come on, let me. They're making it so difficult. Let's say you're in. All I ever want to do is Oregon. I always use Oregon. Let's see if they'll just take me to the calculator. Here's our calculator. All right, boom. Create an estimate. Right, so if you've never done this before, just create an estimate, and then we're going to say VTL. Right, 64 terabytes is pretty respectable. That's pretty high up there. That's pretty good. So we'll do a tape gateway, and let's say that we're going to write in. Now you might have said 64 terabytes a month, but that's only going to be 1 month. So if you wrote 64 terabytes in just the first month, that would be $125. So that's pricey, but probably take you longer than that to upload it anyways. But then let's say you're going to throw it in the deepest archive, and if we're doing it per month, I mean, that's how much is going to be stored out there. 64 terabytes a month. And now we don't want to retrieve any of it because, good God, that would be terrible to retrieve that. I actually do want to look like what's it going to be to retrieve it. Hold on. I'm going to do 64 terabytes in this month. It's like 64 terabytes. That's crazy. 500 gigs a month just to be safe. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, but hopefully, and the data moves down. So again, you're storing the data. Oh, the wife's here. So how much is stored in here? 64 terabytes per month. So the data won't actually be stored in the virtual tape library often. That's probably going to be like 1 terabyte because it's just going to be moving through down to your lower storage. All right, guys, I got to go. Yeah, backup storage. Yeah. Guys, I got to go. The wife's here. So this was about the time I wanted to end anyways. Make sure you guys go hang out in our Discord. I'm going to go raid somebody real quick on the Twitch side. I appreciate you guys all coming by. I already know who I'm raiding if he's on. Pretty sure he's on. Let's go get him. The raid message is... Oh, well, he's not the one I was going to raid, but we're going to raid Clonk. So if you guys know, our raid message looks like this. Rage. If you got it, use that one. And I will talk to you guys. Some of you guys I'll talk to tomorrow. Take care.